From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefanía Bravo. This is From the South. Venezuela's Vice President Delcy has met the President of the Russian Senate, Valentina Matvienko, to discuss the current situation in Venezuela. During the meeting, Matvienko denounced attempts by the West to destabilize Venezuela's government, adding that the U.S. wants to do the same thing that they did in Libya and Iraq. The Russian legislature also gave Venezuela's Vice President a declaration adopted by the Senate, demanding Venezuela's sovereignty be respected. For her part, Rodriguez reaffirmed her wish to expand relations with Russia.
Today, serious threats from the United States towards Venezuela are for us a great opportunity to be independent, definitely.
Matvienko also denounced the planned coup directed from Washington.
We believe it is especially cynical on the part of the country's part that are represented as supporters of democracy in the world to try to overthrow the elected president and the government to designate an opposition politicians at the head of the country from abroad. All this has added threats of intervention and should be regarded as a serious violation of international law and a serious violation of the United States.
After the meeting, Venezuela's vice president took stock of her visit to Moscow in an exclusive interview for Telesur. She expressed satisfaction with the meetings held with different Russian representatives.
We review what has been the impetus that is being given by Russia and Venezuela, the informal working group within the United Nations for the defense of the UN cause. We saw our cooperation agenda. We evaluated that while we witnessed meeting in April in Moscow, while expanding our space of cooperation, we have also very important meetings with the Duma's president. We have the support of all the politicians' fractions that make up the Duma, and also today we go out a lot of energy and emotion after the meeting with the president of the Senate, where we saw and reviewed the details of the cooperation between Russia and Venezuela.
Rodriguez also stressed that most of the countries of the world are with Venezuela in their fight against the attacks promoted by U.S. President Donald Trump.
Most of the people in the world are with Venezuela, but why are they with us? In addition to the historical ties, cultural cooperation, and that being us, it is also because they are next to the legitimacy, not because of the minority of the old world has detached from the new world. Where you see Russia, China, Iran, India, Africa, and Asian countries in front, this is the world that is going to impose. It's the majority world, and who is with Venezuela.
The meeting between CARICOM and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has been rescheduled until further notice. CARICOM's chairman, along with the Prime Ministers of Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, were expected to hold talks on Venezuela with Pompeo on Wednesday. However, the U.S. Embassy in Trinidad has informed that the meeting will not take place as planned. CARICOM leaders say they remain open to meeting with the U.S. as they continue to pursue a peaceful and sustainable outcome for Venezuela.
Over the past 2 months.
Meanwhile, in Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro inspected a large hotel complex in the state of Vargas. Maduro says cooperation between China and Venezuela have allowed the recovery of these hotel infrastructures. Through the strategic alliance, companies from China and Venezuela remodeled the facade and other areas of the touristic complex. Maduro says the work is intended to provide the people of Vargas and visitors with enjoyment and recreation of an international quality.
We are monitoring these structural works. The damage was serious because of the valley when we had not been able to develop a real recovery project. The old Sheraton and old Melia are two gigantic infrastructures that are going to produce a massive impact on the national and international tourism. We are building and taking advantage of the circumstances of a large convention center that we will have in Venezuela. According to the engineers and the company, structural cleaning of the works has been completed. Now comes all the construction part that are recovering with the goal November 2020.
And Venezuela's government continues to guarantee social protection by ensuring that food reaches people in the country's farthest regions. To date, more than 7 million tons of food have been distributed to the people of Venezuela. We have more in this report.
This is 23rd January Church. The parish is named after the date of the 1958 Venezuelan coup d'etat. It's also where the speculative market is being fought.
First, the neighbor unions, keeping neighbor unions, and above all, cheapen prices. As we know, in the market, speculation is asphyxiating us, but thanks to this, government benefits people stay united. And of course with a harmony that has always characterized us, the Venezuelan people.
The day is a way of showing that you can buy basic food items for less than half the price they're usually sold for at traditional markets.
I feel grateful for the revolution that keeps giving these examples that we're not hungry, that we do have a blockage. Yes, but we are resisting, that we are fighting thanks to our president, Nicolás Maduro.
The food marketing and distribution plan is ongoing. It's the perfect answer to the economic oppression of imperialism.
This is the way to answer imperialism, to show that we do not want that fake humanitarian aid. For us, this is the real community food distribution system. And that didn't start today. We have already distributed more than 7 million tons of food to our people through these programs.
All this is an effort by the national government to ensure food security for millions of families.
A human rights delegation has warned of ongoing and worsening human rights violations in Colombia. The International Verification Mission visited 5 regions of the country, concluded the violations are the result of increased paramilitary presence, drug trafficking, and impunity. The delegation also expressed concern about the government's breach of the peace accord, the breakdown in talks with the ELN, and the killing of social leaders.
We know that the violations of the right to the community life projects, the blockades, and the force of the right of free movement through the territory, secondary to increase of the paramilitary violence, the abuses of the public force, the dissidences of the guerrillas on the communities with the purpose of controlling the civilian population, to obstruct the process of communitarian organization and to facilitate the plundering of land through violence. This critical situation is a responsibility of the state and constitutes an attack against the food sovereignty of the peoples.
A large group of Central American migrants who re-entered the U.S. on Saturday are asking for refuge and to be reunited with their children. The parents are hoping to present their cases to U.S. authorities, which separated them from their children last year when they tried to cross the Mexican border. Many of those minors have been held at detention centers for up to a year. In 2018, the U.S. began ramping up separations after Trump implemented a zero-tolerance policy with migrants reaching the U.S. Moving on, Bolivian President Evo Morales is showing support for 2020 U.S. presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders. On Sunday, Morales congratulated Sanders via Twitter, saying, quote, "We are confident this progressive leader will have a strong support from the people of the U.S. Democratic revolutions are built upon democratic elections." The teacher strike in Oakland, California is officially over. After 7 days of striking, the Oakland Education Associated tweeted that union members approved the New Deal contract deal on Sunday. The 3,000 teachers took the picket line on February 21st to demand higher pay, smaller classes, and more funding. And on Friday, the union announced the teachers won everything they demanded. The new contract includes an 11% salary increase and a one-time 3% bonus. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής,
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Guide Your Body. Tuesdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Hundreds of protesters remain in vigil in Brazil in front of the prison where former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is being detained. They are demanding the release of the Workers' Party leader. Protesters, political leaders, and sympathizers began to gather after Lula returned to the prison in Curitiba following his grandson's wake. During the wake, the former president's followers announced that what they call Lula's political imprisonment. And during Carnival, demonstrations were also held in support of Lula and the Venezuelan people. In the streets of Belo Horizonte, there were calls for freedom and sovereignty during a pro-Lula celebration. Persons also expressed solidarity with Venezuela's government and say it's been the victim of the U.S. imperialism attacks. With the return of fascism to Brazil, represented by the far-right Bolsonaro government, prejudice against immigrants is on the rise. But a carnival bloco founded by Sao Paulo's Indian migrant community is breaking down barriers.
With the return of fascism to Brazil, represented by the far-right Bolsonaro government, prejudice against immigrants is on the rise. But a carnival bloco founded by Sao Paulo's Indian immigrant community is breaking down barriers.
When I came to Brazil first time, I saw many street festivals, the carnival here, and it reminded me of street festivals in India. You know, in India we have a great tradition of people going out on the streets, playing music, playing bateria and dancing and playing colors. So I got an idea of creating something similar in Brazil and also to promote our culture, to reveal our Indian culture to Brazilian people, and also to mix Indian culture with the Brazilian culture because we are migrants here, we live in this country, we love this country, and Brazilians love Indian culture.
With a drum group made up of university music students, the Bollywood bloco mixes Brazilian percussion with Bagra pop music. And the parade is led by a group of Indian and Brazilian women who perform synchronized dance moves. The bloco draws a crowd of all ages and socio-economic backgrounds.
It's been a long time since we dressed up for Carnival, and since we have this Indian themed bloco in Sao Paulo, we decided to throw our costumes together and we are calling ourselves Mahatma and Robin, which in Portuguese sounds like Batman and Robin.
Founded in 2015, the Bollywood bloco is getting more popular every year. This year, a local magazine named it as one of Sao Paulo's 10 best carnival bands. In a climate of growing xenophobia, this carnival group is breaking down barriers and fostering friendships.
This is a really good bloco because we Brazilians get to see a little of Indian culture. And you know, it's really fun and happy, and it helps destroy prejudices against the immigrant community.
I love India.
Brian Muir, Telesur, Sao Paulo.
And the week-long celebrations in Rio have certainly kicked into high gear. Rio Samba schools were in full swing for Carnival as they paraded in a dazzling display of festivity at the Samba Dome. The competition between Samba schools is fierce. A first-place result is bragging rights among Rio's mostly poor communities. Some revelers are also using the Carnival as a chance to send a strong message to Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro.
This current government has accused us teachers of indoctrinating students and of imposing certain ideologies on them. So as we have been very massacred by this government, we decided to create a costume to make fun of it all.
Carnival is a time to fight against Bolsonaro's ideas. It's time for us to show ourselves, for Brazil to understand that gay people exist in Brazil, that we are not going to hide ourselves, that we go out in the streets and show we exist.
Festivities are also underway in Uruguay. The satirical group Agárrate Catalina portrayed costumes which spoke to political and social issues. The traditional humor and musicality is characteristic of the country's popular theater group known as Murgas. And in Venezuela, thousands of families in the capital Caracas are enjoying the carnival holidays in peace. Several events and cultural programs are taking place across the city and around the country. The government has assured that security personnel will be deployed at the national level to guarantee the safety of the Venezuelan people during the holidays. And in Portugal, revelers filled the streets of Torres Vedras, the home of the country's most famous carnival. The event featured floats with satirical depictions of world-renowned figures, among them U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. A figure of Cristiano Ronaldo, the country's most famous sportsman, also made an appearance. Men dressed as women, known as matrofonas, were also part of the traditional event.
Everyone participates in this carnival. It's a carnival for families. It's carnival with a lot of social satire and political satire. The Torres Vedras carnival is the most Portuguese carnival in Portugal.
It's special because we are different. It's a time to enjoy. There's no trouble amongst people. It's all very good, very good. I may be biased because I'm from Torres Vedras, but it's really good fun.
Trinidad and Tobago begins 2 days of revelry as the country kicks off this year's carnival. Let's take a look at some of the activities leading up to what is considered the mother of all Caribbean carnivals.
It's been 2 months of exuberance in the lead up to what the people of Trinidad and Tobago call the greatest show on earth. The carnival season unofficially begins on the day after Christmas and ends on Ash Wednesday, which begins the Lenten season. To some, the lead-up is more exciting than Carnival Monday and Tuesday. It's a festival rich with tradition. Like the parties, known as FtS in Trinidad, over 200 of them to be exact this year, with varying themes. Run with it! Run with it! Run with it! But one common factor, the music, soca, traditional calypso's younger, more vibrant offspring. Every year, the region's top soca artists compete for the Soca Monarch title. This year, a Grenadian won for the first time.
Big up to Grenada and Trinidad. I came from nothing, and this has been my dream. And I just want to say to my fans that I love you very much. You hear me? Love you.
But not to be left out, the calypso singers have their own monarch, who usually sings more socially conscious tunes. Trinidad is the birthplace of the steel pan. On the Saturday before Carnival, the country's best bands compete for the Panorama title. This year, it's the defending champs, BP Renegades, who maintained their crown. And of course, Carnival is about the costumes. The annual Kings and Queens competition displays the creativity and mastery of years of training. Carnival kicks off from 4 a.m. on Monday with Juve celebrations.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. At least 23 people were killed after tornadoes hit the U.S. state of Alabama. The twister swept through Lee County on Sunday. Debris have covered roads and falling telephone poles have caused power outages throughout Alabama. Authorities say the death toll may rise as rescuers search through the rubble of destroyed homes. And thousands have staged fresh protests in cities around Algeria to demand its president to step down. The outpouring of dissent comes as word spread that the president was to declare his bid for re-election on March 27th elections. Opponents say the 82-year-old is no longer fit to lead, citing his poor health. Bouteflika is also accused of corruption and has been heavily criticized for failing to tackle high youth unemployment. He has pledged not to serve a full term if re-elected in April.
I pledged to hold immediately after the presidential election an inclusive and independent national conference to debate, develop and adopt political, institutional, economic and social reforms to form the basis of the new system that will renovate Algeria.
On March 26, Jamaica will vote in a by-election in the Portland East constituency. This follows the murder of the constituency's elected representative last month. The ruling Jamaica Labour Party will be seeking to increase its majority in the parliament, but its candidate Anne-Marie Bass faces a stiff challenge from Damian Crawford of the People's National Party, which has held Eastern Portland for the last 3 decades.
The 8th of March will be the nomination day when Action Anne will formally be registered as a candidate. The 25th of March will be Action Day.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley will travel to the U.S. for a medical examination. Doctors will monitor issues first spotted back in 2016 when he had a prostate examination. The Prime Minister says he does not yet have a return date.
I took the opportunity to do a coronary scan only because I was there and it was available. It turned out then that they did see a small some soft plaque developing in one of my arteries, one artery, and they didn't think that it required any unusual response other than to observe it and to note it and to see how it progresses, if it progresses at all.
Dr. Jane Goodall has returned to Sierra Leone after 27 years. Goodall rose to fame in the 1960s through her groundbreaking study of chimpanzees in East Africa. She's visiting Sierra Leone for 3 days to highlight the country's conservationist movement while discussing the importance of ecotourism projects.
Can't protect chimpanzees without protecting the forest. Protecting the forest is one of the key ways of reducing the effects of climate change, because forests absorb carbon dioxide and they give us oxygen, they provide clean water and clean air. And if all around the world the importance of protecting and restoring forests was understood, that would go a long way towards mitigating the effects of climate change.
Thank you very much for your dedication and hard work around the world. We will always support you and we will do exactly what we can. I am a lay environmentalist myself, and I promise that I will join my colleagues who are active in supporting wildlife around the world so that we can at least stop them from extinction. Thank you so much for accepting our honor. Thank you.
Egypt has announced the completion of a project to save famed 2,000-year-old catacombs in the coastal city of Alexandria from rising waters. It is considered by archaeologists to be the largest Greco-Roman burial site in Egypt and has been threatened by water since its discovery. The rising water prompted Egypt to launch a massive draining project supported by the United States Agency for International in 2017.
The Kom al-Shokafa area is a unique antiquities area suffering from groundwater. As the consultant of the project assumed, since it was discovered in the beginning of the 20th century, a lot of projects have been made to save it. The most important one was made by the Supreme Council of Antiquities in 1995. It was an ambitious project, but unfortunately, the water rose again.
And the 13th National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference has started in Beijing. Delegates from around the country have gathered for the advisory board session some days before China's parliament opens its annual session. Nearly 3,000 delegates will ratify a raft of bills in a session expected to last 2 weeks, including foreign investment law that it could address some U.S. demands to possible tax cuts. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. For our viewers in Africa, we are on Starsat Channel 461 in South Africa and Channel 539 in Nigeria. We're on social media as well, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.